Welcome to day 4 of Becoming Unfuckwithable. Now, here is what we've been talking about so far. So we really started to look at what actually bothers you, where you focus, and then we looked at tracing the trigger, right? Getting down to the root of what is actually going on, because those are the things that really mess with you. Now, here is sort of a plot twist. It's not exactly, this is some deep stuff, so I'm going to cover just sort of a cold notes. This is, some of the deeper things that I really get into, just to really give you this flesh out, this idea of what's really happening at the root. Basically, every single thing we do to meet our needs. So we have an experience. The whole thing happens and forms stories, beliefs, language, the ball of stuff that's between the root and the surface problem. So I like to talk about it backwards, but sometimes, when we actually talk about our needs, what ends up happening is that we have an experience, something happens, then we create all the meaning around it, and then we start to create behaviors and ways of doing things that maybe don't really serve us, but probably they did, or we felt like they did, or they might be maladaptive. There's all kinds of reasons that we do things. So if we look at it in reverse, so your behavior is what you can see. So maybe you like my road rage story, my frustration there. So that's the surface problem. And then there's all this stuff, including, people's opinions, people's beliefs, experiences that every single time I seem to leave my house, I always end up behind the slow drivers. People are always talking about how people are speeding, and I'm like, ooh, where are they? Let me drive behind these people, So this happens, but then what's the underlying thing was a core belief that people are inconsiderate and people don't care about other people. So this is now impacting. Now there's an experience probably connected to this, in terms of this, but ultimately this starts to meet a need for me. We meet needs in a positive, negative, or neutral way. So me actually having an experience somewhere in my life that reinforced or gave me a belief system that people are inconsiderate became something that starts to meet my need. So what need would I possibly be meeting in this story and in this experience of going out and ending up sort of with road rage? Well, then it reinforces my belief. So we constantly create this cycle to get this happening. So here's the 6 concepts, or the 6 basic human needs that we have that we're always meeting through, whether it's the trigger, the experience, the story, or the reactionary behavior. All of those combined often are meeting one or more of these needs. Something becomes an addiction or sort of an involuntarily reactive behavior when it meets 3 or more of these needs. This is what I cover in my course called Embody, which you can actually win by participating in each of the day's work. So when we think about this need structure, what we're really looking at is certainty. We have a need to know what's happening, to be in control, and to sort of know the events, right? Many of us would have had our certainty challenged in the pandemic, because now all of a sudden, all of the things that we thought could never happen are happening. So now our certainty is being challenged. We also have a high human need for variety. So we need to know, we need excitement, we need spice, we need differences, we need change. Then we also have a need for significance, to know that we're important or unique, or that we matter. We also have a need for love and connection. Those get looped together, but essentially they're a little bit different. So everything we do ultimately is to meet our need for love, but because of many of life's conditionings, we'll often need to meet a need for certainty before love. So connection is where most people settle because they're too afraid of love, but we need connection and we need love. So we need both of those needs. Then needs that are a little bit more of the spirit, which is growth and contribution. Contribution is to give beyond ourselves, to meet a need where we're leaving a legacy, where something is extremely important to us and we're showing up for that. And then, the need for growth is to grow beyond ourselves, to continue to learn. If you're taking this course, this free challenge, then most likely you're growth driven. And if you're somebody who's always registering, always wants, the next thing, you're doing school and courses and programs and have coaches, then you're definitely growth driven. So this becomes the thing that we're meeting a need. We're meeting one of these needs. So we can meet them in positive, negative, or neutral ways. So to meet a need for certainty or variety or love and connection, significance, growth, contribution in a positive way could be, that we are, we really understand who we really are. We feel deeply connected and empowered within ourselves. We don't meet our needs from external sources. A neutral way to meet those needs might be, going for a run or eating healthy and taking care of ourselves. Or some people will say they're positive, but ultimately they become a little bit neutral because there's still things that we need to do outside of ourselves. So they probably create a little bit of a neutral thing. They make you feel good. They make you a better person. They give you a high level of health. So these are good things, but ultimately they're not good or bad in the grand scheme of things. Then there's negative ways to meet your need, like getting angry in traffic that you cannot control. Those would be probably a negative way. Now there's tons of negative ways: drugs, alcohol, vegging out, putting yourself last, not doing the things that you really want to do, like not leveling up to the next thing, holding yourself back, staying in a job that you dislike, staying in a marriage where you're not happy. All of these kinds of things would be negative ways to meet our needs. So when we actually look at being fuckwithable, how we are meeting our needs in a positive, negative, or neutral way will also determine how fuckwithable we are. In order for us to truly become unfuckwithable, we need to begin to meet our needs in a healthier way. So for me, first, I stopped going the slow way. That was my first way to stop engaging in behavior that was eliciting things. But I still couldn't control what happened in every area of traffic that I went. So that didn't really solve my problem. But what need was I ultimately trying to meet here? For me, it turns out that I was actually meeting a need for certainty, because anger was a place that I really like to go. And so when I would actually get angry in the car, it was because, so this is before I figured out what was going on. So I would get in the car and I would go get angry. It's a fast way to meet my need to get angry. But that anger gave me certainty. See what I mean? And then once I was angry, I also got variety because my state changed. And then I also ended up, creating a connection with myself. I also felt significant. Nothing can make you feel more important than being the angry person, right? So all of these things would happen, and then that would meet my need for all of these things. So this became a bit of an addictive behavior. So I would go the slow way to intentionally get angry. When we start to really unhinge these things and we actually start to get into this thing, we can really see how much of a mind fuck this is, and why it becomes so critical for us to really work down through these things, and why it becomes so important for you to work with somebody who can really help you really navigate these things, because these are things that are tripping you up, just like it was for me. These things were tripping me up in life. I was thriving in so many areas of my life, and just going to give up my happiness and give up control and give up all these things because someone is driving in a way that I don't like. How cheap could my happiness and my power and all of these things be? Finally doing the work to unravel that trigger and understand that trigger and understand the meaning behind that trigger, and then eventually also get into the experience, which I won't go into the experiences that created the trigger, just because it's going to take a lot more than what we need right now in the course of this. But there's usually an experience or many experiences that continue to create this. So when we actually get into these things, then we can really start to understand why it is that we're doing what it is that we're doing. And here's the caveat: we will violate our values to meet our needs. I was not an angry person. I didn't like being angry. I'm actually a pretty happy, positive, connected, empowering, motivating, and inspiring person. But in those moments, if you had met me in any of those times of very shortly after me getting out of a vehicle, I was not any of those things. And it was coming. It was costing me. It was costing my reputation. It was costing me my happiness. It was costing me, hours of my day being lost to these stories and being lost to all of this stuff. So it was coming at a cost. We will violate our values, which is why you will see people who use drugs, who steal from family to feed their drug habit. They don't want to be doing that, but they're meeting a need at a high level. And so because of that, they will violate their own values to meet that need. So we will consistently violate our values to meet our own needs. How many times do I see health coaches who have significant eating disorders, body dysmorphia, body image issues, and they are promoting, a healthy living and a healthy lifestyle, and yet they actually are engaging in pretty damaging behaviors. They're violating their values. They're not doing it intentionally. They're doing it because they're meeting their needs, right? And then they get into this emotional conflict within ourselves. And eventually, if we hit a threshold and say, I don't want to do this anymore, and that's when we start to really reach out to say, I want something different. I need something different. So how you become more unfuckwithable is to really dive into the need structure and understanding how our needs are ultimately creating us to go out and recreate experiences over and over and over again so that we can meet our needs. And these things are coming from experiences that we've had that end up creating stories and drama and all this stuff. And so all of this becomes really deeply interconnected. So I know that this is a very, very, very Coles Notes version. You might want to listen to this several times, with your pen and paper to make sure that you kind of get the concepts. This is this is really deep, and it's a lot of the core of my work that I deal with people is in here. So, I mean, we're talking about me giving you a 4 to 6 minute sort of very Coles Notes version. It's not even a Coles Notes version of what it is that we're talking about for the purposes of this challenge, so that you understand the idea of why you are fuckwithable, is that these things are the things that make you fuckwithable. If you want to become unfuckwithable, then you need to deal with your need structure, to understand how all of these moving parts work together. So there is a handout. I want you to download the handout. Do your best with this stuff. This is going to be a really good opportunity to put your name in for live coaching, because when we get into the unraveling of the needs and you actually get to see it play out, that's where you really get to start having a deeper understanding of what this is. So stay tuned for your live coaching offer on this. Make sure that you download the document, do the work, post on the post in the Facebook group. I can't wait to see what you come up with for some of these things. And I can't wait to have an opportunity to bring somebody in for a live coaching opportunity. And you can make sure that you get your names in so that you can win some prizes. Day 5, I will be talking a little bit more about how you actually begin to repattern and really work on some of these things. So I will see you here tomorrow, and make sure that you come over into the Facebook group so that we can get engaged on day 4, and make sure that if you haven't done day 1, 2, and 3, that you go ahead and do those things. I will see you soon.